Okay, well, hello, Susan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you mind giving us a quick introduction about your journey to becoming the classification guru?
Yeah, well, I'll try and do it quickly. So, Susan Walsh, founder of Classification Guru. I fell into spend data in the procurement world about 13 years ago when I went to work for a spend analytics company after my first business failed. That was supposed to be a stopgap. I ended up spending 5 years there, growing a team, managing all the projects. And then when it was time to leave, I didn't know where else I could get a job doing the same thing. So I decided to set up the Classification Guru, and that was nearly 8 years ago. And since then, we've become a global business. I have a team. I've written a book called Between the Spreadsheets. A second edition will be coming out later this year. I get to talk globally all around the world about the dangers of dirty data. I really try to make a really dry topic a little bit more interesting and fun.
To start with, since you have all this experience in data, could you share the most common challenges organizations face with dirty data? And what are the biggest risks of not addressing them?
Okay. Well, I think the biggest problem is everybody knows they have a data problem with the quality, and the biggest challenge is getting help to clean it. Companies don't want to pay to do it. I think they think that we can do it ourselves, there's no problem. Of course, everyone can do it themselves, but you do it for a job day in, day out, you're more efficient, you're more accurate, you can do it faster. And so that is a really big challenge. And people really underestimate how many problems can be created if you don't clean your data before a new technology implementation, system upgrades, even things like AI, the training data that it learns from has to be clean. So yeah, that would, getting the budget, getting the management buy-in and approval is probably the biggest challenge. You have potential frauds, overpayments, cost savings, negotiations, all hiding in there that you know nothing about because you don't have the visibility or the clean data. And, that can be really financially damaging to a company. But again, they might not even realize because they don't have the data to actually report on it or investigate it. So yeah, that's a big problem.
Could you explain the COAT framework, the COAT framework, and how it helps organizations improve their data management?
It's something I came up with because data problems are people problems, and a lot of the people that create the data that's incorrect are not data professionals. So we need a framework methodology that everybody can use, everybody can get on board with, everybody understands. And so I came up with COAT so that it's memorable and it's fun. So C stands for consistency. Make sure your data, everybody's using the same date formats, the same terminology, they're inputting things the same way, the same units of measure, all those kinds of things, especially with global organizations that can be really challenging. Then it needs to be organized. So categorize it, any way you want, region, country, business unit, but have that information there so that when someone comes to you and goes, how much did we sell in this region, or how much did we buy in this region, you can pull that information up really quickly. And of course, it's got to be accurate, but define what you need that accurate is for within the area that you work. So once you have your consistent, organized and accurate data, guess what? It becomes trustworthy. And we hear so often we don't trust the data. So it's really important. And the other thing is actually, it's not good enough to put your data quote on, you need to keep it on. So that involves maintenance, regular updates, cleaning, etc.
So what tips would you give to companies looking to build a culture where data accuracy and quality are top priorities across all departments?
It's tough. So you have to not make it a chore if you can. Explain the importance of getting it right and how that impacts other areas of the business when it's wrong. If you can tie it into performance measures and bonuses and things like that, then that is a motivator in itself. And find the what's in it for me for each department or team, because it'll be different for each one. But find out what the motivation is for them to actually get it right. And then I think you've got a good chance of being more successful. Let's face it, data will never be perfect, but if you can make it as perfect as possible, then you're doing well.
We are all acutely aware of AI evolving very rapidly.
Yes.
How do you see it impacting data cleaning and classification?
Funnily enough, in the second edition of Between the Spreadsheets, there will be a Gen AI chapter. That didn't exist the first time I wrote the book. And I have loads of examples in there where it works, where it doesn't work. You have to test and find out where you can use it, where you can't, or where you have to be more cautious. But again, it all stems from clean data, using good, accurate data as a training base, with trying to not have any biases and things like that. You know, it's a lot more complex than just pressing a button, that's for sure.
How do you see the balance between automation, AI, and human oversight in evolving to ensure data integrity?
We've seen this with a number of different technologies over the years. Do you remember when OCR and document scanning came in and everyone was like, oh, it's going to take over our jobs? And actually, it did the stuff that we didn't want to do anyway. And we weren't maybe that great at it. So leverage AI to do the bits that you really don't want to do. Make it work for you. And keep hold of the bits that you want, and make yourself invaluable in other ways, and develop and evolve with the technology so that you can leverage it basically.
So what are the most significant trends that are shaping the future of data management? What can businesses do to stay ahead?
I think this is the problem. It's trends, what's cool right now. Actually, nobody's getting the basics right. Let's strip it right back. Don't be looking at what everyone else is doing. Just focus on what is right for your organization or your department, and how you can get that as good as it can be. Start small and then grow, the process, test it out, but don't fall for the trap of the sexy, shiny new thing. Get the basics right, and that will be more than half the battle.
You recently launched samification, I believe it was October last year. What are the key benefits of tools like samification, and how do they contribute to overall data health?
If you are in charge of looking after your data quality, it's probably going to take you days or weeks, depending on the volume. To have something in 3 minutes is game changing. To be able to make better decisions that quickly, just by tidying some supplier names up. And you might think that won't make much of a difference, but if you've got 50 versions of PwC and PricewaterhouseCoopers in your global data set, you have no idea what's actually going on. To have that clarity in 3 minutes is pretty awesome. Why not let us go and, take the heavy load and do the heavy lifting for you? And then you can breathe a little bit and focus on more strategic and more pressing issues. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, data quality always falls to the bottom of the list. It just does.
And how can businesses future-proof their data strategies and remain adaptable with all these new technologies and even regulatory changes?
Basics again, getting that data coat on, getting people to regularly clean and maintain and look at their data. Like, honestly, the more you look at a data set, the more obvious it is when things aren't right. They just jump out. But if you've never seen a data set before, you'll never know if that looks right or wrong. And honestly, by doing that and getting it clean, then the tools you can add on top, and they're more likely to work and be more effective and help you rather than hinder you. And yeah, like I said before, I really do think it is, let's get back to basics. Take a step back to go 2 steps forward.
As a recognized data champion, what advice would you give to organizations looking to improve their data practices and achieve similar recognition?
It takes a village, as they say. It's not one person's responsibility, and you might need a champion or role model within your organization, like myself, who's really passionate about the data, to share that and spread that infectious enthusiasm. But it truly is everybody's responsibility to work and maintain and keep the data clean. And, you know, data is not just the IT or data department's problem, it's everybody's problem and responsibility. And, you know, we all need to take a little bit of ownership and make our lives easier. That's the thing. It's like, you can make your own life easier. How good is that? And it might seem a little bit intimidating, but you know, that's why if you've got champions within your organization, within each department or whatever it may be, then it just makes it that little bit easier, you know. And those people will be happy to help because they love what they do. Like, I could talk all day about this kind of stuff, you know.
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
No,